All right, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your compositions, and your background in as a composer. All
Well,
right.
thank you for having me, Jimmy. It's this is an honor, and it was an honor to work with you and your colleagues. And I just got the recording about a week
Oh,
ago.
wow.
I played it about a dozen times. It was so exciting to hear, and you guys were man, hit a home run.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think this is one of our most successful performances of a commission work. Mainly because, you composed it so well to highlight the best qualities of each instrument, but also because it was just so fun to play for everyone, and it was just a piece we really enjoyed. So, thank you so much for composing that work for us.
As a composer, you could not have said nicer words. That
Oh,
is the
I'm
thing you want to hear. More than anything, you want the musicians to enjoy playing your music because if they enjoy it, then hopefully it'll be played again, and they'll share that experience with their friends, and so that was the goal. So,
Yeah, it was wonderful. And, it's one of those pieces that I was thinking, if I ever got a chance to suggest a work to play with an orchestra, like a new work, this would be that, because it's just so enjoyable for everyone all around. Uh,
it is just music to my ears.
oh, I'm glad. Well, I want to dive into Countdown, but I also want to first talk a little bit about how you became a composer. Um, is that okay with you?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right,
Um,
so I just want to ask, you started on the horn, right? So how did that happen? Then also, how did you transition into becoming a composer?
Horn was kind of I don't know, it was like a third hobby in all honesty. Coming up, I was really into art. I loved to sketch art when I was a kid, and I also was a
Mm.
huge baseball fan. I mean, I might have played as a kid. I might have played baseball 5, 6 days out of a week, every
Wow.
week with my friend in my neighborhood in Queens. And so I had dreams of being either an artist or a baseball player way more than porn or anything with music. And in fact, and I tell this story very often, the week or the couple of weeks that I went to audition for college, because this went on until I was even through high school. Um, I auditioned at Juilliard, Manhattan School of Music, but then I also auditioned at Pratt School. And no, audition is like you go and you offer your portfolio and you do a live still drawing, that kind of thing. And I also did tryouts at St. John's University in Queens for the baseball scholarship
Oh,
at their
wow.
university. And I told my mom that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I said, wherever I get the biggest scholarship, that's where I'll go to school. So I didn't even the week that I went to audition for conservatory, I didn't really know if I was going to be a musician or not. Of
Wow.
course, I practiced but I had all these other ambitions in life, and I didn't get in to um, to St. John's for baseball, and I I had a really questionable audition at FIT. Um, that's another story that I'll save you. I won't bore you with, but let's just say it didn't go as well as I thought it would go. And Juilliard didn't give me enough scholarship. Matter of fact, they didn't give me any scholarship. Let's just did it.
Wow.
They accepted me, but it was like no scholarship. And Manhattan School gave me a huge scholarship to go. So that I
Oh,
said, all right, I'm gonna play horn and I'm gonna be a musician. That's what I'm gonna do.
yes.
So
Oh, wow.
that was my foray into getting into the horn, into music. I had been writing songs since I
Mm.
was a kid, though. I still have the books. I wrote songs, and I would write the parts for like different band members on sheet music, but I never had a band.
Oh,
I wrote. like scored out like love songs to whatever girl I was really in love with,
Wow.
and wrote it for like horn and piano and like cello or something like that, and never ever played this music. And it's horrible. It's absolutely terrible. I look at it now. It's like, oh, good grief.
Hmm.
But I wanted to compose even as a young person, and I didn't start composing, however, until I was in my master's study. I
Oh,
started
wow.
started getting into composition in my master's study.
Mm. And wow, I mean, that's a lot. And first of all, well, I have a lot of questions now, but first of all, like, do you feel like your endeavors in sports and also art kind of influenced your composition in any way, or do you think it was more separate?
Well, I guess I could say in a sense it did. Not technically or physically speaking. But what being in various sort of disciplines did was it kept me um, associated with all of the friends and colleagues that I had grown
Mm,
up with.
mm,
I grew up in Queens, New York, in a little small area called Far Rockaway, which, if you
mm.
know New York, you take the A train to the last stop and you're in Far Rockaway.
Wow.
And in the 70s and the 80s, it was a very diverse area. Um,
Mm,
Black, Hispanic, Jewish, you name it, Haitian. And all of my friends, like on my one block, I had friends from like literally every walk of life. And we would play baseball or we would trade comic books. And that's where the art thing came in. Um, I mean, there weren't any classical musicians on my block, but everybody loved a different style of music. People were into merengue and salsa and Haitian music. And my best friend at my first wedding was Orthodox Jewish, and I sat Seder with him. I mean, this was like all the influence that I had from all the different being in those different disciplines and everything. And so, in that regard, all of that kind of made like a stew, a gumbo, when I was, starting to get into music because I loved everything. I loved every kind of music, you name it. I was a nerd when it came to music. In fact, I was laughed at on my block because in the 80s people had things called a boom box. It
Oh,
basically
yeah.
radio, yeah. And I used to make mixtapes. This is so old right now, really telling on myself. I used to make mixtapes that would go from like rap music to the Mozart horn concertos. Like you
Oh,
can
wow.
with do 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 hip hop and then da, 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 do, do.
Oh,
I was a complete nerd, and I
that's
didn't care.
hilarious.
I didn't care that because I loved all of that stuff. So that comes into play um, in my music because all of
Mm,
those influences, it's just part of me, and
mm,
I can't help it. It's we are a product of our environment.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that regard, yes, it did influence.
Yeah, I've been listening to some of your music and I've definitely sensed that it's very culturally informed. And I think that's what's so special about it is like everyone can relate to it because it's so culturally diverse. And um I think it's so interesting that, you were playing baseball and doing art and all these really like it seems kind of different, but it's all kind of creative, right? Creative endeavor. So you are, a creative at the finest level. And um I have another question, which is, you know, how you said you were composing for horn, cello, and piano, and like for all different kinds of instruments. So, like, did you learn to do that on your own, or did you have a teacher? Because, like, if I want to do that, I don't know how I would do it.
Well, I have to underline the fact that the music that I wrote in those days when I was like 14 and 15, it was horrible. It was just it was so bad, mainly because I didn't have any. I only knew how to play the horn. I didn't have any
Mm,
piano skills, and uh, and so I really didn't understand harmony very well. I didn't understand. I didn't have a great grasp on theory and chord progressions and that kind of thing. I knew how to play my scales, and I was working on my arpeggios, and that's tough enough on French horn. And so, mainly my idea of what melody was, I had a good sense of melody. I'll say that.
yes,
When it
yes.
came to harmony and long form writing, like I didn't know what I was doing. And so it's very simple writing, very simple chord structure. But I did have the desire,
Mm,
and what that really, I was influenced because my mom would sing a lot. There was
mm,
always just music playing in the house, and I was hearing, all that diverse music that she liked. But I was also going to getting my horn lessons and theory lessons on the weekends, like in a prep division, just like you guys.
mm,
But Brooklyn College had
mm,
a Saturday prep division program, and so I would go on Saturday, and from the top of the morning until the afternoon with the same thing, orchestra and theory and lessons and all that stuff. And so slowly it
mm,
started to come. But the what happened was in my master's study, as an elective, I took a orchestration class.
mhm,
I always wanted to learn about how to write for the different instruments, and the professor by the name of Jack Lassard, um, he gave this incredible class that allowed us to learn about all the instruments, taking things like Chopin piano
mm,
etudes, or maybe the early Mozart piano sonatas, and then orchestrate them for like chamber orchestra or romantic orchestra. And that way you had to learn how to write for harp and learn how to write for bassoon and violin and all the instruments that I really know about. And he was tough. My scores would come back with red ink all over it, like, no, 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 that's
oh,
not the range of the cello. You can't play that. And so, I learned about the instruments. And at the same time, uh, what I would do is I would arrange like pop tunes and show tunes for members in my class, uh, so that we could perform them after, get this, after concerts. So we
mm,
play the big concert of the semester or something like that, and then there'd be like this party in um in the big social room at college, and I would get together like 6 or 7 people. There'd be a pianist, me on horn, maybe a bass clarinet, a trumpet, and somebody could sing. And I would arrange things like, Earth, Wind, and Fire tunes for like this weird quintet of, oboe and horn, and whatever. And we'd be rocking it out. And every concert, they say, Jeff, you got some arrangements? You got anything for us? I'm like, yeah, I got some
oh,
Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I got some Miles Davis. I got. So I would do that,
oh,
and that got me kind of interested in just the idea of composition.
oh, wow. And how did you happen to join the Imani Winds? Because that's like a very, famous group now. But how did it start off? Were you like one of the founding members, and how did you join, and how was the idea conceived?
Yeah, that's Imani Williams. That is such a huge part of um, who I am, what
Mm,
I've become, and for everyone in the ensemble that's still in it, and folks that went on and started to have their own careers. Um, we started in 1997. I was
wow.
the original. Well, I was the original horn player in a sense. There was a horn player that actually had another horn player, a friend of mine, whose name is Marshall Seeley. He
Mm,
started the ensemble, and I think he played maybe 2 weeks, maybe three. and he realized that they were serious. He thought it was going to be like a gay group, like they get together once and play in churches and
Oh.
play for Steve or something like that. And they were serious. They wanted to do competitions, and so he called me up and he's like, Jeff, I got myself into this group that's really serious, and I know you're way more into like serious playing. You want to hang out with these folks. And so I went in and I joined the group of. I wouldn't say it was definitely no more than a month into the ensemble. So I really am the original horn player,
Hmm.
and that group. Wow, we started out with nothing, like any other chamber ensemble. I mean, nothing. We didn't have any money, any management. We didn't
Mm.
have a place to rehearse, so we had to use people's schools, and then we create these little concerts at churches, and the local church is called Christ and St. Stephen's. You know
No,
that
I
church?
do not. No.
It's on 69th Street,
Mm.
uh, well, just off Broadway, between
Mm.
Broadway and Amsterdam and Columbus. Sorry.
Mm.
Anyways, that's a famous, I wouldn't say famous, popular church for New York local ensembles to rent because it's cheap to rent. It's close to Lincoln Center, and so
Mm.
people who want to go to concert but don't want to spend a whole lot of money, they go to Christ and St. Stephen's, and they hear all these young ensembles, and that's what we did. We would book concerts there, and we must have did that for 2 or 3 years,
Mm.
like two concerts, three concerts a year, that kind of thing. Started doing competitions and so on. And one thing leads to another.
Wow. And do you think like the people in there or the music that you played there like kind of influenced your composition in any way?
Absolutely. Um, the well, first of all, the Wind Quintet as an ensemble, a chamber music ensemble, um, lacks in repertoire from
Mm.
the great, European composers. But well, really, the
Yes,
great
yes.
composers. Period. We don't have Brahms and Bach and Bartok and Duke Ellington and George Gershwin. None of them wrote for Wind Quintet. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
there's no major piece of music written by a well-known composer. The very first piece that we get that's kind of from a known composer is from Reinecke.
Yes, yes.
We have Don Z. You know that name. And then it skips. There's some. Then we get some stuff from like Hendeman, but
Mm.
Stravinsky, you name it. None of those guys wrote for Wind Quintet.
Mm.
So, with that in mind, how do you have a full time touring career with the chamber ensemble if you've got no major repertoire?
Mm.
You got to compose it. You compose it, you arrange it, you commission it. So right away, me and my sister from another mother, Valerie Coleman, we set out just doing that, either arranging pieces, composing our own works for the ensemble,
Mm.
and then the ensemble would raise money to commission the composers. And so we just went full on, and I would say for about first 10 years or so, there was zero chance that you could hear an Imani Winds concert where it didn't have at least one piece by me or one piece by Valerie. It was
Mm.
guaranteed that one of our pieces was going to be on there because we just
Mm.
didn't have any other rep. And when I should say this, when I say we don't have rep, there was repertoire. It just is really bad. Really, like there is some just boring, 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 not well crafted music
Mhm.
from Quintet. And that's primarily the reason why there's never been wind quintets that go and have long careers like string quintet
Mm.
or piano trios or
Mm.
even brass quintets. They're famous brass quintets. They have plenty of repertoire. We don't have that, and so how do you have a career if you don't have a Beethoven cycle,
Hmm.
or a Haydn cycle? You don't have that stuff. So we we had to set out to make that happen. Once we established ourselves as a formidable ensemble, then people would actually come approaching us with pieces like, here, I've written this quintet. Would you please play this piece? And we started getting some of the more contemporary pieces, and then of course commissioning and things so forth. So that's how.
Mm. Wow. I feel like, yeah, like Imani Winds has like kind of paved the way for all the different ensembles that are going on right now. Like it's inspired students to write their own work for their own ensembles, and it's really just set such a good example for what the future of classical music can be. And now I want to talk about Countdown. So it's like my favorite piece to talk about. Let's dive in on how you came up with the idea and wrote it.
Well, you're always searching for a reason, not a reason, I
Hmm.
guess, inspiration, I guess is the best way to put it.
Hmm.
Um, so it started from this kernel that Professor Sprott, Wesley
Oh,
Sprott,
yes.
when he approached me about writing this piece, he said, "Well, I want you to write a orchestral piece, something in around 8 or 10 minutes." And I just thought, man, it's hard to think about. Like I can think of some pieces, like Afternoon of a Faun, pieces
Yeah,
that are very famous that are only like 8 or 10 minutes. Most great pieces are like, symphonies and large works. So
right.
I started Googling um, most famous works under 10 minutes. I just did that Google search, and I'm Googling, and one thing leads to a TikTok thing, and this leads to an Instagram thing. And I stumbled upon this vlogger who was in the middle of Times Square, and he was asking passerbys, what would you do if you found out you only had 10 minutes to live?
Mm.
That's just the algorithm. I was on this YouTube, Instagram, I'm searching for stuff, and like the algorithm brought me to this fellow's vlog.
Hmm.
And some of the responses that the people were giving to this pretty serious question were as mundane and flippant that you could even think of. They're like, well, I think I like, I don't know, and call my mom. Um, I might, I might run and like do like the one thing that I've never done before. I might, like it was like the weirdest. And I think part of it is that we don't think about that kind of stuff. No
Hmm.
one
Yeah.
of dying. And two, I don't think I want to know if I got 10 minutes to live. I don't want to want to tell me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want, like, just imagine just having that knowledge that, all right, in 10 minutes, And so I thought about, man, what would happen if I actually, like, I went to the doctor or something like that, and he said, well, you got 10 minutes. I just thought, what would that, and it became a very serious question to think about, like all the emotional things that would happen. And so the way I thought about it was, wow, well, I would definitely want to be someplace beautiful, so that at least my last 10 minutes would be in this gorgeous place. So the
Hmm.
first thing I thought was, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been was in a little small town in Spain.
Mm.
And so the opening thing is this sort of
The harp.
Spanish, the harp
Yes.
thing. And I just thought, if somebody told me that, at least I want them to be like in a plaza somewhere drinking the best wine in Cadiz. So right there, and of course it has to be it's a surreal sort of premise, right? So the
Mm.
very next thing would be that I would then go into shock. Like,
Mm.
oh my goodness, and then the piece sort of goes straight into the,
Yes.
you know. Um, and then like after the shock sort of wore down, a lot of things like little small memories would start that little tiny things would zoom by my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have when the piece kind of every once in a while it'll break down into little things, little comedic things. Sometimes you get the little wah wah trumpet or the little bassoon thing or don't you
Yeah.
it's like I would remember little things from my childhood or like a
Mm.
funny thing that happened like that would like all of that stuff would just torpedo very quickly
Mm.
in my mind. So I put those things in there. But I think the biggest thing that would happen with that I would take probably a couple of minutes and cry and then like think about like, you know, the best part of my life, like maybe somebody that I loved, a family member, somebody that I missed, somebody that I didn't tell something that I should have, something like that. And that's where that whole very, sort of sultry part comes in. And, I just sort of reflect a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the inevitable. Then the chaos comes in the last 2 minutes. Now the piece actually ended up being closer to 12 minutes. That's because, that's because I had to do it. But the idea is that, when the 10 minutes was up, all of a sudden you can't be thinking about that because whatever the thing is that's going to bring you to your demise has started to happen. And that's how that whole piece dissolves like that. It just completely turns into chaos and however you
Mm. Mm.
so it's kind of a heavy thing, but I tried to be wild and sort of almost like a tone poem kind of thing. Like I tried to keep the visual part of it more important than like the emotion. Like the things happen, boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope it doesn't get too dark.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is, I mean, that is such a full, like I don't even know how to describe it in words. Like because, I played it, I understand exactly what you were talking about because I felt it. But I think it's hard to put into words, the sensation that you get when you're listening to and you're playing that piece because it's just so, you know, loaded with emotions and scenes and memories and so much information to process. But I mean, even that doesn't deter the fact that it's like a beautiful work and it's a great work. And hopefully it's played by more people because it's so, amazing. And I really hope that, because we played it, some other ensembles will play it as well.
I have a
And
very good
yeah,
feeling that's gonna happen. You
I
guys
also.
played so well. Well, it is already. I don't know if you probably know this. It was a joint commission.
Yes, with the interlocking.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they're gonna play it. I don't know the date, but sometime next
Mm.
spring they'll play it. Um,
Okay.
with your version and with their version, and hopefully your both schools will put out like clips of it somewhere and that sort of thing. Um, and your and Maestro Blazer already said that he's going to bring the score with him wherever he goes to
Yes.
in the future. So um, I get a feeling it's going to be played again. Thank
It's it's
thank you.
really great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And that was all the questions I had.
Oh, I'm so glad that was fun.
Yeah, I had so much fun and I'm just so glad that we got to play a work by you. Because I also my friend Sohyun played your work. This
Oh, you mentioned hot. Now, are you very friendly with her? Do you know her from?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played
Oh,
together before and
oh,
she also
well,
talked about playing this piece. She was very excited. So,
I tell you, that was an amazing experience. She's well, I can't tell how closely in age you two are.
Oh, yeah, we're 1 year apart. I'm
One
one
year
year
apart.
older than her, yes.
I guess also when I worked with her, it was about 2 or 3 years ago.
Hmm.
So yeah, she's probably, I keep thinking of her as still kind of like 13 or whatever it was, you know. But she's was amazing. And
Hmm.
I just I have never worked with, I just don't have that. I don't usually work with young violinists, and
Hmm.
it's I just don't. I work with violinists, but usually they're professionals. That was the very first time in my life that I had judged a competition and also then got to work with somebody with that much talent and that young. I was just like blown away at how much poise also, to get in
Yes.
front of that orchestra and just, from the very first note of rehearsal, just
Yeah.
oh, it's just very impressive. And I really hope that that piece and working with her can happen again, because that was just an amazing experience.
Yes. I mean, I wish I was there because I would have loved to hear it, but it sounds like a great experience.
Oh, I could share if you want. I could share the
I would
recording.
love to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I have it on a file. I'll send you the link when I hang up with you.
Yeah. Sounds
But
good.
yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, thank you so much. Tell your friends and your colleagues in the orchestra that I am just over the moon happy from the experience. Even before I got the recording, I had such a good time, and I was just so, I mean, everything, from the Schubert Unfinished and Valerie's piece. I mean, just everything was just so good. My my very one of my teachers, horn teachers, who's become a very good friend of mine now. I mean, I've been in school 30 years, so we're friends now. He used to play in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. He's retired now, but he came to the concert and he was blown away. He
Oh, I'm
said,
so glad.
especially, I mean, he was blown away by the piece and everything, but he said, especially in the unfinished, he said there were times in the unfinished where he said you couldn't tell that this was a young person's orchestra. He said there were moments that were just so delicate. The strings, he said, they sounded so good. You got lost in it. And
Yeah.
he plays in
That's
the
very flattering. Yeah.
So, you guys really had some incredibly special moments that night. And I know you're kind of used to that. You guys at Juilliard, you're used to that. So, bravo, bravo. But thank you. It was a treat. It was a treat.
Thank you so much. It was our pleasure and our honor.
Well, continued success. And anytime you want to chat again, don't hesitate.
I would love to, and I would love to play your piece again. I can play the song of how do you say it? Udaipur?
Uirapuru.
Vidapuru. Yeah.
Oh, it's the musician's wren. That's
Mm,
it's the English name for it. It's a bird that lives in the Amazon.
mm.
Uh, and I'll send you the violin part also when I send you
I
the
would love that. Yeah.
absolutely
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend. That was
Thank you.
such amazing
Thank
conversation.
thank you. Ciao.
Bye bye.